Hello, my name is Bubs, I'm an artist, and I like to hear myself talk. And today I'd like to hear myself talk about my really old, cringy original characters. And by really old and cringy, I do mean it. I think that I first started drawing them when I was probably in like the 3rd grade, and I am now a college-educated adult, so it's definitely been a while. And I was looking back at my old stash of like drawing notebooks and I saw them and I was pretty hyped. I was like, I remember these guys. I remember how important they were to me, but I was also kind of thinking that I could just do way better. Like I could totally put child me to shame. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could take these character concepts and just reimagine them, not just give them, new designs or anything, but try to actually give them new stories, new ideas, to prove that not only am I better as an artist, which is not really a high bar to clear, but I'm also just better as a writer. So that's what we're going to do, and hopefully it's fun. I would really appreciate it if you stuck around, but I will be doing this regardless. I will say though, this video is probably going to be a huge train wreck. I haven't done any long form content or even tried in a really long time, and there is like definitely a reason that you will not see any proof of me trying that before, because it was bad. I'm mostly doing this just to kind of test the waters. I'm not scripting it even against my better judgment. So it's probably going to be kind of rambly and a mess, but hopefully it's still fun and anybody who sticks around will enjoy it. I hope you do. Yeah, let's get into it. I'm excited to show off like my really, really old art, my really old OCs. This is going to be good. We're going to start off with the first character. There's 4 total, but this first one is actually the only one that has a name, as you will find out. I never really decided on a pronunciation. I remember calling her Alea, Alea even, but I'm going with Alea for the sake of this whole thing. She was my first ever original character that didn't have anything to do with a fandom. Like, she was just completely her own thing. So she's very special to me. That being said, she had such a vague story. Part of it is just that she was one of my characters for so long, and so I think that I just came up with a bunch of ideas with her, but consistent things. She is a dragon girl, and she lives in the forest by herself. She was outcasted for being a dragon girl, but she is coming back now to the kingdom or whatever, because the kingdom is under threat of dragons, and she's the only one that can stop them because she can also turn into a dragon, I think. I did draw dragons that had a flaming sword, and she does have a flaming sword. Pretty cool. Yeah, I did draw dragons like holding a flaming sword fighting other dragons, and they've got big eyelashes, so I'm assuming that was supposed to be her. Child me was not a fan of labeling things. I did not label characters. I did not label when I was drawing these things. I did not label what was happening. Something I definitely regret and kind of loathe my little child self for, but yeah, I drew her a ton, I came up with a lot of different ideas just for her. And her design definitely changed a lot over the years. Sometimes she would be more dragony, sometimes she would be less dragony, sometimes she had like these cool runes on her horns, sometimes she had ridges and like spikes on her tail or her wings, and then other times she didn't. Sometimes she just straight up didn't have any wings or horns, I think, sometimes. But I do know that it was all her because of her general vibe. She got progressively more edgy as I grew up as well. But that just kind of happened to all of my characters, because it stopped being a thing of just like, ooh, look, did a fun little guy that I drew, and it turned more into a way for me to vent. So I think everybody got edgier as time went on. Speaking of which, this is edgy central. This is Sorcerer Guy, aka King of Darkness. Although I will be completely honest, I am about 50-50 on whether or not the King of Darkness is supposed to be a completely different character, but they just had very similar vibes, so I went with it. So Sorcerer Guy was designed specifically to be the love interest for Alea. I do remember he was originally supposed to be, like, a very traditional witch, and I was actually basing him off of this witch character that was in a book that I really liked, and that was kind of his inspiration. But I ended up making him a guy because I wanted him to kiss Alea, and this was before I realized that you don't have to do that and that the characters can just be gay. But you know, he didn't actually have a very firm story other than he was kind of edgy, and he has a snake, and he uses dark magic, and I think he had something with his parents. Either they didn't love him, they're dead, or they didn't love him and now they are dead. You know, typical edgy boy stuff. I did, however, remember that he was a mercenary and that Alea, like, hired him rather than him joining the group willingly. I remember that being kind of a plot point and a point of contention, because everybody else that's on this little kingdom saving dragon fighting team was all, you know, they all joined willingly and they wanted to help, but this guy was just paid to do it, and that's the only reason that he's helping. So yeah, also I have that little drawing there. I'm not actually certain that that's supposed to be Alea and the Sorcerer Guy, but I'm pretty sure that it is, so I added it anyway. But also I just kind of liked it. I think it really showed that I was trying to push myself more with, you know, posing and outfits and that sort of thing. I was not very confident in my ability to do all of the things that I was trying to do, but I did them anyway, and so I'm kind of proud of little childhood me for really, really pushing myself there. Yeah, also, he briefly had, like, longer hair. He had, like, a little ponytail, and his hair was way more floofy, and he had little lip piercings, because he's super edgy. But also, I think that I made him more of a comedic character later on. I honestly think I ended up going a more comedic route with him because all of the other characters got so edgy that he didn't stand out anymore as, like, the resident edgy character. I think I went with the kind of, like, he acts all tough, but beneath all of it, he's actually, like, a really big softie, and he just wants everyone to like him kind of a character instead, which I actually do admire that I was kind of trying to get away from just having every single character be super edgy and mean and everything. So I like that I kind of went that way with him. The next character is Goblina. That's what I'm calling her right now. Again, no name. I think she started out as, like, just a random goblin tinkerer kind of thing that I would draw sometimes. And then she kind of evolved into her own thing. Like, well, first of all, I think that I actually did something kind of cool with her design, like, the way that I decided I wanted to draw goblins. I gave them, like, these big floppy ears, and I think that I gave them horns, but I'm not super sure because they seem to move kind of like extra little ear flaps, so I don't really know what those other things are, but still, I just think that the whole idea of kind of a non-traditional goblin character was kind of fun. That being said, I think that from a story standpoint is that goblins in elf society were kind of kept as pets. But she's also this tinkerer kind of person, so I don't know how all of these things work, but they basically kept them as pets, even though they're fully sentient, and she joins up with the crew, not necessarily because she wants to help the elves, because they're the ones that are getting attacked by the dragons or whatever, but specifically just because it means that she can leave. And they all agree to protect her. Yeah, see, this is what I was talking about. See, I drew, I guess, a guy, not dragon, goblin, because I think that was supposed to be, like, a love interest where he was, like, very, very happy to be kind of a lapdog thing, and she despised that, but he was actually, like, really nice to her or something. Something like that. But yeah, so he's got horns that are definitely supposed to be horns, and the little flappy things. I still decided to interpret them as horns. I only kind of changed my mind after I went back and looked for these pictures, because I did a lot of the drawing first. But I think I added mostly just so that I could have a little bit diversity in the energy levels. Everybody is pretty aloof or shy in the rest of the team, and I wanted her to be, like, the sassy, brash, aggressive kind of person, because everybody else was not bringing that to the table. You know, Alea's a warrior type, so she can be ruthless when she needs to be, but she's really just this forest lady that doesn't really know how to talk to people, so she's mostly just very socially awkward. You know, the Sorcerer Guy is just a dick, and then the other person that we're about to get to is very shy, so having just kind of an out, loud, proud kind of person was good. Yeah, so the Fairy Queen, again, no specific name, and very, very vague subject matter. I, for the life of me, could not find a single drawing where I was sure that it was the Fairy Queen specifically, and that she was doing anything. Like, the drawings that I have are pretty much the drawings that I always saw, and for the record, I am not entirely certain that a lot of the pictures that I got were of her, which is why I ended up only really including these 3, but she's always just, like, sitting or standing. She would be sitting or standing by the other guys, you know, so I knew that she was included, but I don't think she actually did anything. If my memory serves me, she joined the fight because the dragon menace was also threatening her and her little fairy kingdom. I don't really know why she went and she didn't, like, send a little soldier, because I think that that's supposed to be, like, a little soldier fairy with the little leaf swords, which is actually super cute. I wish that I actually kept that for the redesign now that I'm thinking about it, but, you know, it's kind of weird that the queen went on this journey for this thing instead of, you know, one of many subjects of hers, but, you know, she joined the fight because she had to protect her kingdom or whatever. I guess maybe it's because she was the most powerful, though, as I said, I don't have any proof that she was powerful, because I do not have any proof of her actually doing anything. I think that she just existed to be pretty, so that I could draw a pretty lady with big, pretty wings. And that is totally valid, but it was not very helpful for me now when I'm trying to do this little challenge project thingy. I also struggled to determine what her size was. She looked to be about the same size as everybody else when I drew her, but that could also just very well be because I was just trying to draw her big, and if I drew her small, I wouldn't be able to add in all of the details. But I really was confused about why she was so large compared to, you know, this little soldier fairy or whatever. I guess it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, but it's just one of those many things. I don't remember if I actually had a very good explanation for it, aside from the fact that she was the queen. But yeah, those are the characters, and we're gonna get straight into the redesign. So I'm starting off with a rough pass of everybody. I just needed to figure out what was staying, what was changing, and how I could, like, better communicate the character through their design. For Alea, I wanted to make her a lot more athletic and tomboyish, because I don't think that her actual personality really came through in her outfit. She was just very girly looking. She has this skirt, she has this big ponytail, she has, like, a bow in her hair. She's definitely feminine, but not, like, running around in battle in a miniskirt. So I wanted to actually keep some of the vibes the same, which is why I ended up giving her kind of a loincloth to mimic the skirt. But I was just mainly trying to make her look a little bit more athletic, because I have much better a grasp of anatomy now, and also have all of her clothes look a little bit more worn and even more handmade, because, you know, she lives in the forest by herself, so she probably did make all of her clothes on her own. But I also wanted to keep the horns and the wings and the tail because that's actually like the coolest part of her design and what makes her stand out a lot. I also swapped her flame sword, which, while definitely cool, I wanted to have her wield a bow just because I thought it made more sense from a living in the forest and probably hunting all of the time kind of standpoint. And also, again, she could theoretically probably string a bow herself. Plus she has wings, so being able to fire arrows at people from above is probably pretty good. I did the Sorcerer Guy next. His came the easiest to me because I wanted to actually lean into the edgy mage stereotypes and just go very, like, basic with it. At least my current understanding. My personal basic. I don't know if it's basic for everybody. I almost gave him a midriff just because I like to do that with androgynous sorcerers, for some reason. But I ended up deciding against it because I felt like even though it was funny, it just kind of went against the vibes of the character. Like, I don't think he'd be comfortable doing that. Because again, I'm trying to prove that I'm not just making decisions because I like how they look. I'm trying to prove that I'm making decisions based on things that actually make sense for the character. That's also part of why I went more basic with it. I thought that the kind of vibe of he was at a sorcerer school and this is his old sorcerer cloak, and now because he's been wandering around, it's all beat up and he didn't really accessorize past that. Just made a lot of sense for him as a character. I also, I wrote on there, lost it because of an edgy tragedy, but I wanted to give him like a wooden peg leg to kind of indicate that he's been through some kind of horrendous trauma or something. I had this bad habit of just writing bad stuff happening to characters but not actually showing it, so that was kind of what I was going for there. For the goblin character, I actually didn't change a whole lot now that I'm thinking about it. I did obviously just try to improve on the anatomy. Obviously, I have grown a lot in that, aspect. So proportion wise, she actually looks shorter, like her legs and her arms are shorter rather than just looking shrunken. I also just wanted her to look like a tinkerer or a laborer of some kind. I gave her, this big tool belt and stuff, and I gave her this little hammer. She always had these goggles. I thought it would be actually kind of fun if she kind of always wore the goggles. I like characters, especially now, I like characters where one eye or both eyes are kind of always obscured in some way. I think it's a nice challenge to kind of see how to make the character really expressive without their eyes, since a lot of your expression is in your eyes. So yeah, I just didn't really end up changing much about her. And then the fairy is the one that changed the most, inevitably. I wanted to keep a lot of the nature vibes and a lot of the very stereotypical fairy kind of things, like the pretty wings and the pretty hair and the pretty eyes and all that. But I also wanted her to be a lot more buggy, because I thought it would be just more fun for me to design a fairy that's more bug-like rather than just a tiny person. I gave her like big eyes and antenna and everything. I also gave her like a big needle as a weapon because I thought that would be pretty cute. I also ended up giving her like these pretty butterfly wings. One major difference that I ended up making was that I decided I wanted her to actually be very slim, and have almost a boyish kind of frame. And I did this because originally she was just very, very curvy, but I think all of my characters were really, really curvy because first of all, I just didn't know how to draw boobs, so they would all be like the same size and be kind of lumpy and weird. But I also kind of didn't really know the ways to make the character look feminine without giving them boobs, or I thought that they had to have boobs to look feminine, and that's just not the case. So I ended up going with a slimmer look, just because it makes her look more aerodynamic, and I also just think that it lends itself more to bug vibes, I guess. I also just thought it would be interesting for all of the ladies to have very different builds. Alea's very average, but like with a little bit of muscle, and then the goblin is like very short and thick, so I thought like long and slim would also kind of just give a little bit of a visual difference that I really liked. Yeah, so now we're gonna do a lineup, which is something that I never would have even dreamed of doing back in the day. Even when I first started digital art, doing lineups like this would have made me so upset. I was really scared of doing like full body portraits or references or anything at all. I literally had body templates that I would just draw over because I couldn't like think about the concept of actually drawing several people, full body, legs, hands, everything, over and over and over. Which, now that I think about it, definitely probably stunted me in a lot of ways, because using a body template, clearly I was not going to get a lot of diversity as far as, like, body types, and I didn't really know how to draw anybody that wasn't just skinny or curvy for a very, very long time. Like, those are the two ways. Even my muscly people looked like crap. So right now I'm just like refining all of their designs and adding in a couple of details or changing some details from the original drawings and stuff, or the original sketches that I made for the rough passes, which that is already hilarious, because looking back, I would not have a sketch and then a refined sketch. I would either just draw it and that would be their design, or I would not have like a consistent design for them at all. Like it was all or nothing. So I definitely wouldn't have thought about it as much as like the process as I do now. I wanted to really push the colors. I wanted all of them to have some level of cohesion, which is another thing that I really struggled with, is having, you know, a color palette that's pretty consistent across the entire team. While still, I also wanted, the Sorcerer Guy to stand out visually, so I leaned very warm with everybody else's colors, and then he was definitely more dark and cool toned with low saturation, and he still is like very odd ones out, which I really liked. It was another way of me putting the characters' personality and story into their design, rather than their design being more of an afterthought of how to make them look cool. I think that I kind of did a much better job of getting across all of the characters, for sure. Like, I think that their vibes are much more readable than I did, not only just in how I posed all of them, because even though they're all just standing there, you know, I wanted the Sorcerer Guy to kind of be slumped over, I wanted Alea to kind of have her shoulders back and her chest pushed forward, I wanted the Goblin character to be a little bit more relaxed overall, like her shoulders are down, and then I wanted the fairy to look more joyful and excited, which is why I gave her the pose, especially where she's like raising her needle into the sky. I love how tiny she is. I was highly considering having her be bigger, but I just thought that it made it more visually interesting if we had just one character who was teeny tiny. Yeah, so now I'm slapping in the colors. This is actually very true to my original vision for the characters and their colors, actually, now that I'm looking at it again. I always imagined Alea to have that kind of darker, you know, bronzy tone, almost a red, and I imagined our Sorcerer Guy over there to be very, very purpley. The longer that I look at the Sorcerer Guy, the more that I realize I totally just stole his entire vibe and color idea for a completely different character. I don't know if I'm willing to jump scare you with that art of that character right now, because it was really early on in my digital art days. But yeah. I just think that they all ended up looking way more cohesive as a unit, despite being very, very different between all of them, while also still being, like, it coming across more that they could theoretically be adventuring or running around and actually doing things, rather than, you know, posing for us to look at, which is something that I really only ever did, anyway, for my characters back then. So now we're going to do some character portraits. just of their faces to give a little more detail. And while I'm doing that, I might as well talk about how I'd probably write their characters today. I didn't come up with anything super detailed because honestly, these characters were so vague to begin with. I didn't have a lot to work with. If I ever do this again, and I do actually have some ideas, I'll probably work a little bit harder on this part, but I would definitely keep the aspect of her getting kind of banished or whatever, but I thought it would be more interesting if it incorporated the story of the dragon war thing. I like to imagine that long ago, the elves and the dragons got along very well, and the dragons kind of blessed the people every couple of 100 years to have a child born as a dragonkin. So they have these wings, they have the big horns and the tail, and they could, once they're of age, they can turn into a dragon themselves. And it was considered like this great blessing and this great gift. But nowadays, because the elves kind of turned against the dragons and waged war on them, this is now considered a curse. So she was abandoned at birth by her parents after she was born like this, and they were like, ew, she has horns. So she learned to take care of herself in the woods and grew up there with the help of the woodland creatures. I also thought it would be kind of interesting if all of the characters, again with the making them more unified, I wanted all of the characters to have this idea of unsung hero-dom. All of them are, trying to help people that would never actually help them. That's kind of the vibe that I wanted to get across. So for her, I thought that her main motivation is kind of helping people that refuse to help themselves. Like, the elves waged this war, but it's going to destroy them. So, I imagined that she was going in to, retrieve this stolen egg or artifact or something from the dragons because they were about to literally murder them, raise hell to get this thing back. So she's going in to steal it, and that's why she's going on this adventure with her friends. Overall, it's better because it's actually a defined motivation and plotline, but I also just think that it's better and it makes her a more complex character because it's she's helping these people that would never help her, and to do it, she's doing kind of a morally gray act in the first place. So next up, we have the Sorcerer Guy. I decided to give him a name. I went with Zeno, Zeno, because having a Z in your name feels edgy to me, but also it sounded kind of fantasy-ish. I don't really know. I just thought that it worked for him. For his character, I wanted him to be less of an asshole and more of just kind of aloof and maybe cold, but not necessarily outwardly antagonistic I think he kind of was before. I liked the part of him being a romantic interest, and I wanted him to actually be likable, so yeah. For his actual story, I thought it would be really interesting if he was actually kind of the heir to this very aristocratic, well-known elf family that got cursed because his parents sucked. And he doesn't really feel bad for them, but he and his sister were cursed. His sister is actually the snake. She was turned into a snake. And so now he is basically trying to study dark magic in order to undo the curse, but dark magic is this big no-no, and it got him kicked out of his little sorcerer school. So now he's trying to make a little bit of extra cash to fund his research through mercenary work. So that's kind of how he gets all wrapped up in the main plot and ends up meeting everybody. Also, to keep with that unsung hero kind of thing, I thought that it would make a lot of sense if, his curse or even just his family name make a lot of people look down on him now, and they usually give him the cold shoulder, which first of all would do a great job to explain his very cold, standoffish kind of personality, but it would also help unify the group again through that common unexpected people helping people that wouldn't help them kind of thing. So next up we have the Goblin. I went with the name Paya because I thought that it sounded cute and it suited her. I actually really liked the whole concept of her being kind of this outcast because of her goblinhood, and she joins up because it's an opportunity to kind of, improve her material conditions or whatever. Except that I thought instead of being like a pet, maybe the elves use goblins for like manual labor, which is why it makes more sense that she could be theoretically like a tinkerer. And she decides to go with them because she, wants to get out of the house and everything and try to get a better life for herself. I also kind of made her older than everybody else. Everybody else landed in 19 and then early 20s and stuff. But Paya, I wanted her to be older because I thought it would be fun if she was kind of the mom of the group and she kind of took everybody in and thought of them like they're kids of hers. But yeah, she has, again, that unsung hero thing of she's helping people that wouldn't help her. Then we are on to the fairy. The fairy, I ended up naming Flora because I wanted to be a little stereotypical with it, and also I just thought it was cute and it suited her well. I don't think I actually decided on the name until the very end, though, which was kind of funny because there was not a name coming to me. But yeah, so I thought that for her story, maybe she was kept kind of as like an ornament in some old rich elf wizard tower or something. And through some happenstance, they bust her out of there, kind of by accident, but she's like so excited to be out that she refuses to leave them alone and like starts following them everywhere. And they kind of just accept her as part of the team after that. I did have an idea that maybe she's some kind of fairy royalty, but she just never knew it because she was raised in this little wizard tower. Personality-wise, I actually wanted her to be, like, really energetic and really sweet and really kind and, like, very naive and gullible. I kind of thought of, like Rapunzel from Tangled, kind of vibes. This would be a major improvement considering she had no defined personality before. Oh yeah, and at the very end I gave her eyebrows. I kind of didn't want to give her eyebrows for a while because I thought that it would make her more bug-like, but I changed that in the end because I just thought that it would make her a little bit more expressive, even if you couldn't really see them when she was far away. Yeah, that's everything. That's everything that I did for this kind of idea, challenge, experiment, whatever. I had a lot of fun. I don't know that this is going to be a good video. I will post it anyway and see what happens. If I do this again, I'm gonna probably be a lot more organized about it. And I actually do plan on doing this again because I really do have so many old characters, some though with a lot more defined stories, so there will be a lot more to work with. Yeah, I just really liked reminiscing about these guys and remembering what it was like when I first came up with them, remembering how exciting coming up with all of these things were. And I do think that as much as I can make fun of, like, that really old art and how vague everything was and how nonsensical the stuff that was written down was, I just think that I did my past self proud. That was really what I wanted to do at the end of the day. I wanted to prove in some way to the child that still lives in my heart, that the things that she made were good and she can make really good things now and that we are cool. So that's hopefully what I did. I hope that you, if you made it this far, thank you, first of all. I'm so sorry you had to listen to me ramble. I'm super bad about just rambling and ranting, and I don't know if this even made a little bit of sense, but if it did, I hope you had fun. If you had fun, please tell me. Please tell me if you would at all be interested in seeing some more of this sort of thing. And if you did, what would you like to see more? Because again, I am kind of testing this out. I don't really know how much I'm going to be doing with this. I didn't even break out like my actually good microphone, mostly because I couldn't find it. But I do have like an actual microphone. So hopefully if I do this again, audio will be a little bit better. But yeah. Outro stuff. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. I am not a YouTuber, so this is awkward, but genuinely, like, thank you for hanging out. This was fun. I had fun. Bye.